Hey everyone, welcome back to Creepy N. In this video we're getting into 4 terrifying road trip experiences from Alaska, stories about isolated highways, endless darkness, and encounters that remind you just how alone you really are up there. Before we begin, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. If you enjoy this kind of content, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and let me know if you want more stories like this. Alright, let's get into tonight's stories. I was 23 when I drove the Dalton Highway alone for the first time. It was March 2019, and I'd taken a job with a geological survey company based out of Deadhorse. The pay was good enough that I didn't ask too many questions about the 10-hour drive through nothing. My supervisor told me to fuel up in Fairbanks and not stop until I hit Coldfoot. "There's nothing between here and there worth stopping for," he said. I remember nodding, thinking he meant gas stations. I left at 4 in the morning when it was still dark. The highway was empty, just me, my headlights, and an endless tunnel of black spruce trees pressed against both sides of the road. The radio lost signal after the first hour. I downloaded podcasts, but my phone died somewhere around the Yukon River Bridge, and I'd forgotten my car charger. So it was just silence and my own thoughts. Around hour 6, I needed to pee, badly. I hadn't seen another vehicle in over an hour, and my bladder felt like it was going to burst. I pulled over at what looked like an unofficial rest area, just a wide shoulder with tire tracks in the snow, indicating other people had stopped there before. I got out, and the cold hit me like a wall. It was the kind of cold that makes your nose hairs freeze instantly. I walked a few feet into the tree line, did my business quickly, and turned back toward my car. That's when I saw the second set of tracks, fresh ones, leading from the trees on the opposite side of the road, circling my car, then heading back into the forest. I stood there, steam rising from where I'd just peed, staring at those tracks. They were boot prints, large ones. Someone had walked up to my car, looked inside, maybe touched the doors, I couldn't tell, and then walked away. While I was 15 feet into the woods, with my back turned, I got in my car and locked the doors. My hands were shaking so badly, I could barely get the key in the ignition. I sat there for a moment, looking at those tracks in my headlights, trying to make sense of it. The thing that bothered me most wasn't that someone had been there. It was that I never heard them, not the crunch of snow, not a branch breaking, nothing. I drove away and didn't stop again until Coldfoot. When I got there, I mentioned it to the guy at the gas station while I was filling up. He was older, maybe in his 60s, with a grey beard and tired eyes. "You stopped at mile 132? He asked. I didn't know the mile marker, but I described the spot. He nodded slowly. "Yeah, people see things there, tracks mostly. Sometimes they see someone standing in the trees, but when they look again, nobody's there." He swiped my card and handed it back. "We don't really stop there anymore." "Who is it?" I asked. He shrugged. "Don't know. Could be someone living rough out there. Could be someone who died in one of the accidents. There's been a few bad ones on that stretch." He looked at me. "Could be you. Just had a close call with someone who wasn't friendly. Either way, you're lucky you came back to your car when you did." I wanted to ask him what he meant by that, but something in his expression told me I didn't want to know. I finished that job contract, but I never drove the Dalton Highway alone again, and I've never stopped at mile 132, not even in daylight, because every time I think about it, I remember standing in those trees completely vulnerable while someone watched me from across the road, and I remember how quiet they were. I picked up hitchhikers in Alaska for 3 years before I stopped. This was back in 2017, when I was working seasonal jobs and driving between Anchorage and Denali every few weeks. I'd been hitching rides myself when I first moved up there, and I figured I should pay it forward. Most of the people I picked up were harmless backpackers, tourists, workers heading between job sites. You develop an instinct for it. You can usually tell within 30 seconds if someone's going to be a problem. But I was wrong about Sarah. I picked her up on the Parks Highway in late September. She was standing at a pull-out near Willow, thumb out, with a small backpack at her feet. Early 20s, blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail, wearing jeans and a flannel shirt. She looked tired, but normal. Safe. I pulled over, and she jogged up to the passenger window. "How far are you going?" she asked. "Denali," I said. "Perfect. I'm trying to get to Healy." She threw her backpack in the back and climbed in. We drove for a while, making small talk, where she was from, Oregon, how long she'd been in Alaska, 2 months, what she was doing up here, working at a lodge. Normal conversation. About 40 minutes in, she asked if we could stop at the next rest area. Said she needed to use the bathroom. I pulled into the Trapper Creek rest stop, just a parking area with pit toilets and a few picnic tables. It was late afternoon, and there were no other cars there. She grabbed her backpack and headed toward the bathrooms. I stayed in the car, scrolling through my phone. 10 minutes passed, then 15. I started to get concerned. I got out and walked toward the women's bathroom. The door was open, empty. I looked around the rest area. Her backpack was gone. So was she. I called out her name a few times, feeling stupid. Then I noticed something on the picnic table nearest the parking lot. A piece of paper weighted down with a rock. I walked over and picked it up. It was a note, handwritten in blue pen. "I'm sorry. I needed to disappear. Please don't look for me. Tell them you dropped me off in Talkeetna. Tell them I got out there, and you never saw me again. Please. My daughter needs me to be gone." I stood there reading it 3 times, trying to make sense of it. My daughter needs me to be gone. I got back in my car and sat there for 20 minutes, staring at that note. I should have called the police. I should have reported it, but something about the way she wrote it, the desperation in those words, made me hesitate. I drove to Healy and tried to forget about it. 2 weeks later, I was back in Anchorage when I saw the news story. A woman's body had been found in a remote cabin near Trapper Creek. She'd been dead for approximately 3 weeks since mid-September. The article said she'd been reported missing by her boyfriend after she failed to return from a trip to visit her mother. Her name was Sarah Whitmore. There was a photo. It was her, the same woman I picked up. According to the article, the autopsy revealed she died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. But here's what made my blood run cold. The estimated date of death was September 18th. I picked her up on September 22nd. I told myself I was wrong. That it was a different Sarah. That I'd misremembered the date. But I still had the note. I'd kept it in my glove compartment, and when I dug it out and looked at it again, my hands started shaking. I drove back to Trapper Creek the next day. I don't know what I was looking for. Proof that I wasn't losing my mind, maybe. The rest area looked the same, empty, quiet, nothing unusual. I walked to the picnic table where I'd found the note. There was nothing there now, but as I stood there, I noticed something I hadn't seen before. Scratched into the wood of the table, faint but readable, were words carved with something sharp. "Tell Emma I'm sorry." I looked up Sarah Whitmore's obituary that night. It mentioned that she was survived by her daughter, Emma, age 4. I never reported what happened. What would I even say? That I gave a ride to a dead woman? That she left me a note asking me to lie about where I dropped her off? But I think about it constantly. I think about how normal she seemed, how she made small talk and laughed at something I said about moose on the highway, how she thanked me when she got out. I think about that note. My daughter needs me to be gone, and I think about what she might have been running from, what might have been so bad that even death wasn't enough distance. 3 months later, I saw another news story. Sarah Whitmore's boyfriend had been arrested for child abuse, multiple counts. Neighbors had reported hearing crying from the apartment, seeing bruises on a little girl. The investigation had started after an anonymous tip. The arrest was made on September 23rd, the day after I picked her up. I still have the note. I've never shown it to anyone. Because how do you explain something like that? How do you tell someone that you gave a ride to a ghost and she used you to make sure her daughter would be safe? I don't pick up hitchhikers anymore, and I don't drive the park's highway at night, because I'm afraid I'll see her again, standing at that pullout near Willow, thumb out, waiting for someone to help her finish what she started. I'm afraid she'll get in my car and ask me to do something I can't refuse. Because the truth is, if she asked me again, I think I would. I think I'd drive her anywhere she needed to go, even knowing what I know now, especially knowing what I know now. I was 31, divorced for 6 months, and driving from Anchorage to Homer in November because I couldn't stand being in my apartment anymore. My ex-wife had kept the dog, and the silence in that place was suffocating. I thought a week in a rented cabin on the coast would help me figure out what came next. It was around 8 p.m. when I saw them, a white conversion van on the shoulder of the Seward Highway with its hazards on. A woman was standing outside waving her arms. She looked maybe late 20s, wearing a puffy jacket that seemed too thin for the weather. As I got closer, I could see a man sitting in the driver's seat. I almost didn't stop. You're not supposed to stop for strangers in isolated areas, but the temperature was dropping, and I knew what it meant to be stranded out here at night. I pulled over about 20 feet ahead of them and got out. "Thank God," the woman said, walking toward me quickly. "We've been stuck here for over an hour. Our engine just died, and we can't get cell service. Where are you trying to get to?" I asked. "Seward," she said. "We're supposed to meet my sister there tonight." I looked past her at the man in the van. He hadn't gotten out, hadn't even turned to look at me, just sat there staring straight ahead through the windshield. "Is your husband okay?" I asked. She glanced back at him. "Yeah, he gets anxious. Doesn't like talking to people." Something felt off, but I couldn't put my finger on it. "I can give you a ride to the next town," I offered. "There's a gas station about 15 miles up. They might have a tow service number." "That would be amazing," she said. But she didn't move toward my car. She just stood there, looking at me with this strange expression like she was waiting for something. "Is there anything you need to grab from the van?" I asked. "No," she said. "We travel light." I gestured toward my car. "All right, well, can my husband sit in the front?" She interrupted. "He gets carsick in the back." "Sure," I said. She turned and called out to him. He finally moved, opening the door and stepping out. He was tall, maybe 6'3", with dark hair and a blank expression. He didn't look at me. Didn't say thank you. Just walked past me and got into my passenger seat. The woman climbed in the back. I got in and started driving. Nobody spoke for the first few miles. I tried to make conversation, ask where they were from, what brought them to Alaska, but the woman gave short answers and the man said nothing at all, just stared out the window. After about 10 minutes, I noticed something in my rearview mirror. The woman was crying, silently, tears running down her face, but she wasn't making a sound. Her mouth was slightly open, like she wanted to scream but couldn't. I looked at the man. He was still staring out the window, his jaw clenched. "Is everything okay?" I asked. The woman's crying stopped immediately. She wiped her face quickly. "Yeah," she said, her voice too bright. "Just tired." I didn't believe her. We drove in silence for another 5 miles. My hands were sweating on the steering wheel. Every instinct I had was telling me something was very wrong, but I didn't know what to do. We were in the middle of nowhere. The next town was still 10 miles away. Then the man spoke for the first time. "Pull over," he said quietly. "What?" I asked. "Pull over here." I asked. I glanced at him. His expression hadn't changed, but there was something in his voice, something cold and final that made my stomach drop. "We're almost to the gas station," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I said, "Pull over." I looked in the rearview mirror. The woman was staring at me with wide, terrified eyes. She shook her head slightly, so slightly, I almost missed it. I pressed harder on the gas. "Don't do that," the man said. His voice was calm, but his hand moved to the door handle. "You're going to want to stop the car." "No," I said. My heart was hammering. "We're going to the gas station." He turned to look at me for the first time. His eyes were empty. "I'm trying to help you," he said. "She needs to get out. If she doesn't get out, something bad is going to happen." I looked in the mirror again. The woman was crying again, harder now, her whole body shaking. "What are you talking about?" I asked. "She's sick," he said flatly. "She needs to get out of the car." I saw the lights of the gas station ahead. I pushed the car faster. The man reached for something in his jacket. I didn't see what it was. I just swerved into the gas station parking lot, slammed on the brakes, and yelled, "Get out! Both of you get out!" The woman bolted from the back seat and ran toward the gas station entrance. The man sat there for a moment, staring at me with that same empty expression. "You should have stopped," he said quietly. Then he got out and walked calmly toward the road, not toward the gas station, not after the woman, just back toward the highway, hands in his pockets, like he was taking an evening stroll. I sat there, shaking, watching him disappear into the darkness. I went inside and found the woman sitting on the floor in the bathroom hallway, sobbing into her knees. A gas station attendant was crouched next to her, talking quietly. When I approached, the attendant looked up at me. "She says you gave her a ride," he said. "Yeah," I said. "There was a man with her. She says she doesn't know that man," the attendant interrupted. "Says he got into their van 3 hours ago and wouldn't let her leave." I felt cold all over. The police came. They took statements. They searched for the man, but never found him. The woman's actual husband showed up an hour later, frantic. Their van had broken down, and he'd walked to get help, leaving her there alone. When he got back with a tow truck, she was gone. I never found out what the man wanted, or what would have happened if I'd pulled over when he asked. But I think about it constantly. I think about how calm he was, how empty his eyes were. I think about the woman's silent crying and the way she shook her head at me. And I think about what he said. She needs to get out of the car. Not we, not us, just she, like he was planning to stay. I was driving back from Valdez with my younger brother in August 2018. He was 17, and it was his first summer in Alaska. Our parents had sent him up to stay with me because he'd gotten into some trouble back home. Nothing serious, just the wrong crowd, wrong choices. They thought a summer of hard work and wilderness would straighten him out. It did, mostly. We'd spent 2 months working at a fish processing plant, and he'd actually seemed happier, more focused. We were both looking forward to the drive back to Anchorage, just the two of us, talking about what he'd do when he got home, how he'd handle things differently. We left around 6 in the evening. The Richardson Highway was quiet, just a few scattered vehicles. Around mile 28, near Keystone Canyon, we saw an RV pulled onto a gravel turnout. It was one of those big rental ones, white with colored stripes. The kind tourists drive. The driver's door was wide open. "Should we check if they need help?" my brother asked. I slowed down, conflicted. It was still light out, and the door being open like that seemed odd, like someone had gotten out in a hurry. "Yeah," I said finally. "Just a quick check." I pulled in behind the RV and we both got out. The engine was off, but the keys were still in the ignition. The radio was playing softly, some country station. "Hello," I called out. No answer. My brother walked around to look at the other side while I peered into the cab. There was a map spread across the passenger seat, a half-eaten sandwich in the cup holder, a woman's purse on the floor. Everything looked normal, like someone had just stepped away for a moment. "There's blood here," my brother said. My stomach dropped. I walked around to where he was standing. He was right. There were drops of blood on the ground leading from the RV toward the tree line. Not a lot, but enough to be obvious, and there was a smear on the door handle. "We should call the police," I said, pulling out my phone. No signal. "Let me check inside," my brother said, moving toward the RV's side entrance. "Wait," I started, but he'd already opened it. The smell hit us immediately. Not decomposition, something else. Copper and fear and something I couldn't identify. My brother climbed in before I could stop him. "Holy shit," he said quietly. I climbed in after him. The interior was trashed. drawers pulled open, cushions slashed, clothes and supplies scattered everywhere. But that wasn't the worst part. Written on the wall above the bed, in what looked like dry blood, were two words, as watching my brother was staring at the dinette area. I followed his gaze. There was a laptop open on the table, still powered on. The screen showed a video paused mid-frame. I could see it was dashcam footage, the view from inside the RV, looking forward through the windshield. My brother reached toward the keyboard. "Don't touch anything," I said. He pulled his hand back. "We need to see what happened." I knew he was right. Against my better judgment, I used my sleeve to press the spacebar. The video resumed. Timestamps showed it was from 3 days earlier. We watched as the RV drove along a highway. This highway, I realized, a woman's voice was humming along to the radio. Everything seemed normal. Then the humming stopped. "Did you see that?" the woman's voice said. She sounded nervous. A man's voice responded, "See what?" There was someone standing in the trees back there. Just standing. Standing. Probably a hiker. No, David. They were just standing there, staring at the road. The video continued. A few minutes of silence. Then, "There's someone on the road." The RV started slowing down. As it did, a figure came into view, a man in dark clothing, standing in the middle of the highway, facing the RV. "What the hell is he doing?" the man David said. The RV stopped completely. The figure didn't move, just stood there, maybe 50 feet ahead of them. "Go around him," the woman said. Her voice was shaking now. "I can't. He'll..." The figure started walking toward them, slowly, deliberately. "David, go. Go." The RV, "David, go. Go." The RV started reversing. The camera angle shifted as David turned around in his seat to see behind them. And that's when we saw it. Another figure. Standing in the road behind them. Same dark clothing. Same stillness. "Oh my God," the woman was crying now. "Oh my God, David, what do we do?" The RV stopped. The figures kept walking toward them from both directions, getting closer, and then the video cut out. My brother and I stood there in that destroyed RV, staring at the blank screen. "We need to leave," I said. "Right now." We climbed out, and I pulled out my phone again, walking around trying to get signal. That's when my brother said something that made my blood stop. "There's fresh food in the fridge." I turned to look at him. "What?" "The milk. It expires in 4 days, and there's ice in the freezer, not melted," which meant someone had been in this RV recently. Keeping it stopped, waiting, I finally got 1 bar of signal and called 911. I told them what we'd found, where we were. The dispatcher said troopers would be there in 45 minutes. "Stay in your vehicle," she said. "Don't go back inside the RV." We got in my car and locked the doors. I started the engine, ready to drive if we needed to. My brother was quiet, staring out the window at the tree line. "You see that?" he said after a few minutes. "See what?" There was someone standing in the trees. I just saw them. I looked where he was pointing. Saw nothing. "You're just freaked out," I said, but I wasn't sure. My eyes kept scanning the forest, looking for movement. 20 minutes passed. Then my brother grabbed my arm. "Look at the RV door." It was closed. Tilm. I put the car in reverse, ready to get out of there, but then I saw something that made me freeze. There was a face in the RV window, pale, watching us, and then it smiled. I hit the gas. Tires, spitting gravel, and we didn't stop until we reached a gas station in Copper Center. The state troopers called me an hour later. They said they'd investigated the scene and found the RV abandoned, but there was no laptop, no evidence of what we'd described. They found the owners though, David and Rachel Morrison from Seattle. Their bodies were recovered 2 weeks later, 11 miles off the highway, buried in a shallow grave. The troopers had questions about inconsistencies in our timeline, about things that didn't add up. They never charged us with anything, but I could tell they didn't entirely believe our story. My brother doesn't talk about it. He went home at the end of that summer, and he's never come back to Alaska. We don't discuss what we saw. and we don't discuss what it means that the laptop disappeared. But sometimes, late at night, I get emails from addresses I don't recognize. No subject line, no message, just video attachments I never open. The last one came 3 days ago. The file name was Richardson Highway, Wintast, Rec, Mile 28, Cam, Final, MP4. I haven't deleted it, but I haven't opened it either, because I'm afraid of what the timestamp will say, and I'm afraid I'll recognize the car in the frame. I deleted the video file this morning, but tonight it's back in my inbox. Same file, same name. My brother called me an hour ago. He got one too, so that's all 4 stories from tonight. I want to know which one disturbed you the most, and do you think any of these could have happened to you? If you made it this far, you're exactly the kind of person who should be subscribed to this channel. Hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments if you want more road trip horror stories, because Alaska has plenty more where these came from. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe out there.